gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today. We're going to do a Relentless Rundown where we go over one of the most anticipated games that I can remember. It was Brady's return to Foxborough. This was a Sunday night matchup that had every storyline you could think of, and it delivered. We're going to go through the game, talk about the key momentum shifts that happened, talk about maybe what could have been done differently or how things could have changed if they had made different decisions. But before we get into that, I just would like to take this opportunity to say, if you are new, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. It helps me to continue to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys content that you love. Now, without any further ado, let's get into this Relentless Rundown. So I definitely came into this game really anticipating Brady in the revenge game was gonna go off. I just thought that going back to Foxborough, he wanted to prove a point to Belichick, to all the doubters, even after his Super Bowl victory last season. Now, I will say that the conditions in this game were very poor. It was raining, sometimes very heavily throughout, and I just thought as that game kind of started, that could potentially impact the passing game, especially the downfield throws, which we know is something that Brady has been doing early and often so far this season. So going in, you had to figure that there were going to be some offensive adjustments, and what would the Buccaneers offense look like without that potential maybe to quite push the ball downfield like they like to. And it started off slow. With the first possession, Mac Jones actually looked solid. He had 3 completions on all 3 of his attempts, but they would have to punt. Buccaneers did not get anything going on their possession, and they would have to punt after just a single first down. And then this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Kobe Myers catches one over the middle and is hit pretty quickly after he did. The ball squirts out, the Buccaneers recover, and initially they gave that ball to Tampa, but they did go back and review it and correctly overturned it, making New England just punt it away instead of having to lose that field position. I wouldn't say it was fortunate or anything like that because the call seemed pretty obvious and they got it right. So, as if destiny wasn't enough of a storyline coming into this game, Brady on this next possession actually passes Drew Brees all time on the NFL's yard passing list with a 28-yard strike to Mike Evans. The Bucs are getting Leonard Fournette involved early. They clearly want to make the run game more of a focal point of this offense. So they're able to pound the rock a little bit. Now Brady misses a couple passes. They end up having to settle for a 29-yard field goal, the first of their struggles in the red zone. And Ryan Succop is good to give the Bucs the lead in the game's first points with 4:49 to go in the first quarter. As New England gets the ball back, Mac Jones, trying to stretch the field, has a pass that is just slightly, maybe, out of the hands of his intended receiver. The pass gets tipped and it's picked off by former Minnesota Gopher Antoine Winfield Jr., and the Bucs get the ball back at their own 34-yard line. Tampa Bay again is able to move the ball fairly effectively. They lean on their short and quick passing game. Brady has 104 yards passing in the first quarter. However, Ryan Succop misses on his field goal attempt from 36 yards out as the second quarter begins. This was pretty big because not just the 3 points that were lost, but they don't give up anything off of the turnover, and they don't get behind and give up like a touchdown early, because going down 2 scores against Brady is never a good idea. The Patriots are able to respond in the ensuing possession, and this is where you really started to see what Mac Jones could be, right? Like the reason they drafted him, because coming into this game, he hadn't done much. He looked fine and not poor, but he wasn't anything out of the ordinary. And you could see him on this possession sit back in the pocket. He was taking licks as he was getting rid of it, but he was standing tall and delivering balls into tight windows, and he looked really solid. He was even able to overcome a couple offensive holding calls that pushed the Patriots back on this drive, and they were able to still convert first downs. This drive gets capped by an 11-yard touchdown catch from Hunter Henry, and it's now 7-3 Patriots with 8:28 to go until halftime. After a Bucs punt, New England is facing a 3rd down and 17, and they're moving into field goal range. Now they do a little screen pass and are actually able to gain 15 yards, but they face a 4th down and 2 from Tampa Bay's 46. We are definitely seeing a trend where coaches are going for it in these kind of situations a lot more often. Now there's just over 2 minutes to play, and New England, remember, still nursing that 7-3 lead. So they do decide to punt. I actually like the decision for a couple of reasons. The weather conditions were certainly not helping anyone. I also think that having the lead, being able to say, hey, we're going into halftime at home against Tom Brady with the lead, you would have taken that if you're the Patriots going into this game. And so I think that's the reason that Belichick decided to be a little more conservative and punt it away. It ends up being a great call because the punt is absolutely spectacular. They're able to pin him back at their own 5-yard line, and now Tampa Bay has to go a significant amount of yardage to get themselves in field goal range. It's Tom Brady though. And so what he does is gives it back to one of his main men, Chris Godwin, on back-to-back receptions for just about 50 yards, putting them in position to steal a field goal right before half, which they would. It's Ryan Suckup again, this one from 44 yards out, and as we go into halftime, the Patriots still with the lead at 7-6. Tampa Bay would start with the ball, and Tom Brady hits Antonio Brown, who takes the top off the defense 40 yards downfield for a bomb. However, there is an illegal hands to the face that brings the ball back, takes that yardage off, and the Bucs would have to punt the ball away. As the Patriots get the ball back, you're trying to figure out if they are going to even attempt to run the ball, because they have had a 0 as far as a presence on the ground. They've stuck to the short intermediate passes, and it's been working okay for them, but you'd think that maybe they just want to try to put a little bit of pressure on that D-line and run it. It was not to be. The Patriots throw a little bubble screen out to J.J. Taylor, who honestly I didn't really know about, and I probably won't hear from maybe ever again. He's certainly going to be in Bill Belichick's doghouse now, because he gets absolutely lit up by who else but Antoine Winfield Jr., who forces the fumble and is recovered by newly signed corner Richard Sherman. We know turnovers are always critical, but this one was even worse because the Patriots were already in field goal range. They were about to get points on the board, and so not only do they get the turnover, but they miss out on potential points, and the Bucs are in business. However, a huge step up by that Patriots D, they force a 3-and-out. And as the Patriots have to punt on the ensuing possession, a huge turning point here happens that could have been massive for New England. 7-time Pro Bowler Rashawn Slater goes out of bounds on the kick return, and he doesn't try to get himself back in right away. And because of that, there's a fumble that's recovered by New England that is negated, and they aren't able to get the turnover because of the penalty. So special teams here playing a huge part as well. Now the Bucs, who have been quiet all game, especially for their high standards, have been held to just 6 points, right? Out of the end zone, not doing a whole lot. And this is a huge drive for them. And so, of course, Brady does what he do and answers. He has a methodical drive where he is on point throughout, and this is capped by a 9-yard rushing touchdown by Ronald Jones. The Bucs snatch the lead back and are able to go up 13-7, now just 3:29 to go in the third quarter. And now we have a giant possession for New England, because we know if Brady gets going, it can get out of hand fast. And this is what you wanted to see out of the young rookie quarterback. He responds. He takes the Patriots all the way down the field. They get a couple big chunk plays, gaining almost 40 yards on 2, and then they just continue to go short pass, and hit them where they are weakest, taking it all the way down to the goal line, where a beautiful play action for a wide open flip over the top gets New England into the end zone. It's Jonnu Smith, and the Patriots take a 14-13 lead as the fourth quarter begins. Now, the Bucs have been pounding the rock most of the day to stay in front of the stick, something that we haven't seen really consistently from them all season. So it was surprising, and it was definitely part of the game plan, which maybe changed once we figured out what that weather situation was going to look like. Brady has a couple huge third down conversions, which was a struggle for the Patriots to stop in this game. One of them where he rolled out and actually ran it for 7 yards, which I didn't know we could run that far. And then the other one where he completed it on 3rd and 9 to Cameron Brate, Gronk's replacement, for a first down. It set up a first down and goal from the 6. But the Patriots defense, who just wouldn't give up much all day, responds once again. They're able to hold the Bucs to a field goal, this one from 27 yards out. Ryan Suckup is good, and the Bucs take the lead back 16-14. And once again, we get to find out, can Mac Jones respond? There's about 8 minutes to go in the game now. They're once again down to the GOAT. And Bill Belichick goes full-on Mad Hatter. They have a double reverse where they flip it back to Jacoby Myers, and he's able to complete a pass over the top to a wide open Nelson Aguilar for almost 30 yards. It was a gutsy call in a critical situation that ended up working out big for them. Also of note, Mac Jones had 19 straight completions at a point in this drive, and that matched Brady's longest streak of his career. The drive would end up stalling, but once again the Patriots show an ability to move the ball down the field and put together a solid drive. The Patriots take a 27-yard field goal here to go up 17-16 with 4:35 remaining. It would be Tampa Bay's turn to answer. They're helped by a 31-yard pass interference call, but another 2 key third down conversions from Brady, making that total 9 on the day now. Move the ball into field goal range. They have a shot over the top, and it's Antonio Brown in the back of the end zone who catches it but then can't quite hold on, and they end up once again having to settle for a field goal, but they're able to take the lead back from the Patriots. So to set the stage, there's 1:57 to go. The Patriots are down 19-17. They have 1 timeout. Now, the drive starts with a 20-yard pass interference call on Tampa Bay. I would say that it's questionable, but I don't mind it. They face now a 3rd down and 3 from Tampa Bay's 38-yard line. They go for a pass over the middle like they've done all day, and wide open is Jacoby Myers. But the pass rush gets home. They're able to knock the ball down and force a 4th down. Now with 59 seconds to go, a very tough decision. You can try to take this kick. It's about 56 yards out. You know on the other end of it is Tom Brady. And Belichick decides to go for the points. He wants to try to take the field goal even though it's a long one. And I know that there's been some debate back and forth about what they should have done, what the best option would have been for them. Now initially I thought that the decision to kick was definitely the better one. As I'm watching the game, I think that that's the right call. But the more that I thought about it and looked at the time in the game, what the Bucs had as far as timeouts, this is Tom Brady we're talking about. Even if he makes that 56-yarder, the Bucs have about 52 seconds and 2 timeouts. Now we've seen 37 seconds be enough time to get a field goal. And so with Tom Brady there, I just think that going for it, giving yourself a shorter kick, and being able to run off potentially all the time so that they don't even get a chance to come back against you would have been the better call for New England. However, that's history. He misses the kick, doinks it off of the bottom of the crossbar, and the revenge game, which didn't end up being a blowout by any way, shape, or form, still ends in roses for the Bucs as they get the victory. If you have any comments or any questions, please drop those down below. If you're new or haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And let's get into the game recap. So when I take a step back and really look at this game, a couple things kind of stand out to me. New England's game plan was spot on. They did exactly what they needed to do to try to steal this from the heavily favored Bucs. They utilized the short and intermediate passing game, which helped to neutralize Tampa Bay's pass rush and really keep them on their heels. They went with a lot of screens so that they used that speed from the Tampa Bay's defense against them. And they really made it easy, or at least as easy as they could, on Mac Jones, helping him to get the ball out quickly. Another thing that was surprising to me was that they completely abandoned the running game. They finished with 8 carries for -1 yards. I've watched a lot of football in my life. I can't think of too many games where a team ended with negative yardage. But it was the right call, and that's because the front seven of the Bucs is ferocious. And they knew that that wasn't going to be an area where they could succeed in. So instead of running in over and over for multiple short gains, if gains at all, they decided that they were going to utilize that quick passing game, those screens, as their running game, so to speak. The other thing for New England was Mac Jones looked really good in this game. I know coming in that he didn't really have any hype, and I myself didn't really think much of him, but you think about the situation he's going into with all these storylines, with the weather that they were facing. This is a prime time game. The Bucs were 9 of 19, converting third downs, and they were able to run 20 more plays than the Patriots. So that wore down their defense as the game went on. Now, the biggest thing that causes the loss here, which pretty much it always does when we're talking NFL, is turnovers. They had the one turnover early that didn't end up costing them because Suckup missed the field goal, but it killed their drive, which could have led to points for them. And then the second one did take off points for sure, as they were already in field goal range and were looking like they could have tapped that one off for a touchdown. Biggest key takeaways from Tampa Bay are, boy, you got to get that passing defense checked quick. It looked like it had no chance of stopping anyone, and this was a game where Mac Jones came in just looking mediocre at best, and he looked really good against you, and he picked you apart. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. I don't know if they need to sign another former All-Pro corner, because Richard Sherman sure wasn't enough there, but there certainly are question marks. Now, their front seven was dominating. The line of scrimmage, specifically obviously in that running game, that was not going anywhere. And so they can rely and lean on that. But teams know that. And they're probably going to do what the Patriots did and just throw it 40 times and not try to run it at all because it doesn't work. We know that's going to be a key theme for them going into Miami next week. They looked a little lost, I would say, without Gronk, especially when they got into the red zone, as we know that he's one of those key targets. Now, I know that weather probably played into it a little bit, but we saw them struggle significantly as they got into that red zone area. Now, they did turn to the run game a little more in Gronk's absence, and that run game looked really good. They had 30 carries as a team. They were able to average 4 yards a carry, so I think that's something that they will probably commit to a little bit more as we move deeper and deeper into the season. And finally, even though they got the win, I was a little disappointed in the Bucs' performance overall. I felt coming in that they were clearly the better team. I honestly didn't think New England had a chance of keeping it, inside a 2-touchdown victory. So for them to get out with only a 2-point loss, the Bucs probably should have been coming out a little bit nervous with how the game ended. Overall, this game did not disappoint, It was a roller coaster from start to finish. There was back and forth, lead changes that kept you engaged, and it was a great one to be a part of. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me and watching today. If you haven't done it yet, like and subscribe. It helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. I am Abraham Opatz. This is Relentless Press. See you next time.